Hi there, I'm Kim Vanell taking you through some of the things people are talking about and the stuff they're sharing around the world. So on Newsfeed today, Australia Day or Invasion Day? As the country prepares to celebrate a national holiday, we explore the movement to have the day changed. Venezuela's crisis sends shockwaves around the world, with those for and against the self-declared interim president making their voices heard. After 12,000 years as part of the Arctic, global warming sees the Barents Sea reach a tipping point. And what kind of newsfeed would it be without animals doing stuff? Meet Kitty Cat with a bad rap. A national day for some people can be a time of celebration. For many of the world's colonised countries, it can bring up feelings of resentment and anger, a yearly reminder of historical wrongs. Saturday is Australia Day, known to some as Invasion Day. It's because Australia Day marks the day Europeans first arrived, changing the fate of Aborigines and Torres Strait Islanders forever. Ezra Ozkul has the story.
Every country has a national day. For Australia, it's January 26th. The day marks the arrival of the British First Fleet in 1788. And Australians celebrate the country's discovery by getting together with friends and family. But in recent years, a campaign to change the date has been gaining momentum. Because for the country's Indigenous people, January 26th is Invasion Day.
Now, for goodness sake, change the date.
Change the date.
Change the date.
For them, it marks the beginning of the loss of their land, the mass killing of their people, the rape of their women, and death by foreign diseases carried by settlers.
This is the best country in the world, no doubt. But I can't separate the 26th of January from the fact that my brothers are more likely to go to jail than they are to go to school, or that my little sisters and my mum are more likely to be beaten and raped than anyone else's sisters or mum. And that started from that day. So for me, it's a difficult day and I don't want to celebrate it. But any other day of the year, I'll tie an Australian flag around my neck and I'll run through the streets with anyone else.
Some local councils have stopped holding Australia Day celebrations on January 26th out of respect for Indigenous Australians. But Australia's Conservative Prime Minister isn't happy about that. This year, he revised the law, forcing all councils to hold citizenship ceremonies on Australia Day.
We're not just going to cop people undermining Australia's National Day. It's for all Australians. All Australians.
Campaigners say there's no reason not to change the date. January 26 didn't become a national holiday until 1994. Australia is a relatively young country that is continuing to evolve. But how will this debate shape the country's future? Should Australia change the date?
Well, let's speak now to Mariki Onus of the Gunit Jumara and Gunai tribes. She's a co-founder of WAR, that's the Warriors of Aboriginal Resistance. First off, let's talk about the group's aim, which is decolonisation, as opposed to working within existing white power structures. So what does that decolonisation actually look like?
Well, we haven't never really experienced it before, so it's kind of something that we have to dream and imagine for. But it looks like something where we would have complete control and power over our lives and the lands that we live on. We started WAR as a young group of Aboriginal people because we feel like we've tried everything with the current state. We've given every opportunity to work with the Australian state, and it's largely been ignored. Our Aboriginal children are still being removed at far greater rates than ever before.
Is there a disconnection, because you see it in many other First Nations countries or peoples, a disconnection between the young people and their ancestral lands and their history?
We're not disconnected from our people. It's the people that, our children that are getting taken away from our country and constantly live at the threat of child protection if you don't send your child to settler colonial schools that only serve the settler colonial state of Australia, you'll have your children removed. So it's by force. But Aboriginal people, in our communities, and particularly in our family, the community I'm from, we are not disconnected from each other. We have connection to our homelands. We have connection to our elders, and we know who we are. And we know, there is damage done from the missionaries and the massacre period and other forms of dispossession, but we certainly are connected to our culture and our elders, and we believe that the work that we're doing is carrying on the fight from our elders and our ancestors as well.
Let's talk a little bit about Australia Day, very obviously hugely controversial. There's a campaign to change the date, also to change the name. Tell us where that's at.
So we're not actually involved with changing the date. We're calling for it to be abolished, and we're calling for a new day that's more inclusive of everyone. And we also believe that Australia Day in recent times also perpetuates white nationalism and the rise of the Nazis within Australia. So we have grave concerns as to where white nationalism is going here, and that's why we believe it's important to abolish the day and centre it around something that, well, I don't really think that we have a lot to celebrate as a country. Australia was formed on genocide and dispossession, so there is nothing to really celebrate. And even if they change the day, what day would remedy the colonialism? It's kind of trivial to talk about changing the date. That's not our issue. Our issue is ongoing genocide and dispossession of Aboriginal people.
Now, in Venezuela, Juan Guaido has declared himself the interim president, and people across the world are making their feelings known. The US is backing Guaido's declaration, while others, including Turkey, say Nicolas Maduro remains the legitimate leader, sparking the hashtag #WeAreMaduro. Take a look. Let's have a look now at some other things that caught our eye on social media. The US government shutdown has surpassed the 1-month mark, leaving hundreds of thousands of federal workers without pay and halting a number of services that keep the country running. Many people have taken to Twitter to express their displeasure and frustration with how the shutdown is affecting their lives. One person wondered, how can the full range of US government services be available to ensure the safety of US diplomats in Venezuela if we're in a partial shutdown? Another goes on to say, you know you have a healthy democracy when the human rights of 800,000 people are held hostage and there is nothing they can do about it. Nice bit of sarcasm. And then there was this reminder. I'm just so glad that the US government shutdown has put a hold on food inspections after romaine lettuce killed more people than illegal immigrants last year. Well, now there's a bill on the table from the Republicans that could potentially pay federal workers before the shutdown ends. But one senator from Colorado took to the floor to remind lawmakers why they're in this position in the first place. He called out Texas Senator Ted Cruz, whose state would be home to the biggest portion of Donald Trump's border wall, for lying about wanting the shutdown to end.
Now, it's his business, not my business, why he supports a president who wants to erect a medieval barrier on the border of Texas, who wants to use eminent domain to build that wall, who wants to declare an unconstitutional emergency to build that wall. That's the business of the senator from Texas. I can assure you that in Colorado, if a president said he was going to use eminent domain to erect a barrier across the state of Colorado, across the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, he was going to steal the property of our farmers and ranchers to build his medieval wall, there wouldn't be an elected leader from our state that would support that idea. Which goes to my final point, how ludicrous it is that this government is shut down over a promise the President of the United States couldn't keep.
A delicate ecosystem which has been governed by an Arctic climate for more than 12,000 years is now at tipping point. The Barents Sea has warmed so much that it's set to change from an Arctic climate to an Atlantic one. And that may not seem like a huge deal, but with more salty Atlantic water and much less ice, the changes could affect weather patterns as far away as East Asia and the UK. It's not only scientists warning of the dangers of global warming, but young activists too, like Greta Thunberg. Speaking at the World Economic Forum in Davos, she pointed the finger at the very people who say they're trying to help.
Some people, some companies, some decision makers in particular have known exactly what priceless values they have been sacrificing to continue making unimaginable amounts of money. And I think many of you here today belong to that group of people.
Can't sleep? A new study suggests that being rocked to sleep isn't just good for babies, but helps adults sleep better too. Researchers from the University of Geneva built a special bed that rocked gently and found the participants slept more deeply than on a normal bed. Better sleep means longer periods of slow brainwaves in a deep sleep state and also improves your memory. So go on, sleep like a baby. There are lots of apps available that alert you when your friends are near you or when potential dates are in the same area, but these services are ones that you subscribe to and give permission to track your location. Now imagine having your personal finances on display for anyone to see. Well, China has released an app that does just that, and soon it could become mandatory for all citizens to use. And today's Animals Doing Things. Here's a cat that caught our eye and hearts, brought to the world's attention by Twitter account Fluff. He's teaching that darn rubbish bin what's good for it with a classic 1-2 combo, then a 1, then a 1, then a... Oh, it's so mesmerising. That is it from the Newsfeed team. You'll find us 24/7 on Twitter and YouTube. Stay with us and we'll see you tomorrow.